The Trouble with Tinsel, a Space Janitor Christmas Novella by Julia Huni. Narrated by Rachel Music. Copyright 2018 by Julia Huni. All rights reserved. 1. Now, I'm no Grinch, but I just want to go on the record saying I hate tinsel. The garlands are bad enough. Those fluffy ropes get caught in automatic doors and jam up the works. The long, stringy bits that are meant to resemble icicles are worse. Inevitably, someone will throw a handful or 20 into one of the float tubes, and we'll find the stuff all over the station, well into February. But the door-sized, foil curtains of fringe are the worst. They're all the rage on SK2 this year. Fluttering drapes of bright metallic tinsel wave across every corridor in the place. The loose, reflective nature of those curtains confuses the bots. And when the 2-meter-long strings break loose, they wrap around the gears inside the vacuum bots, sending them limping home to the garage. Or maybe I am a Grinch. Nothing stops up the works like Christmas. Sticky Cacuvian pine pitch on the floors, wrapping paper filling up the recycle chutes, drunken partygoers spewing in corners. The cleaning bots don't handle any of it well, which means I have to. Handle it, that is. My name is Triana Moore, and I'm a maintenance technician on Station Kelly Kornienko. In other words, I'm a space janitor. Keeping the bots working is my bread and butter, and at Christmas time, that's no sleigh ride. A flashing red icon catches my eye. I shove the last of a toasty pie into my mouth and roll my chair up to the console. Bot 23D is stuck. Running diagnostics tells me nothing, and the on-bot cam shows only clear corridor. I dispatch a repair drone and turn back to my sweet slurp. A second flashing icon appears next to the first. The repair bot has stopped about 20 meters from 23D. They're on cross corridors, so the two bots are not in line of sight, but a quick scan shows nothing near the repair bot. Now that's odd. I tap into the vid feeds, but that intersection is dark. The cams are offline and can't be rebooted. My eyes narrow. This feels like hacking, but when I go into the operating system, there's no indication anyone else has been there. I toggle the contact icon and tag the ops supervisor. Ops, Al-Rashid Thompson? The operations supervisor, Rash, appears on the screen. Maintenance, Moore. I respond. I got a couple bots up on level 20 on the fritz. They aren't responding, and I can't get vid. Yeah, I noticed some cams were down. I was wondering when you were going to get around to fixing them. As he speaks, a banner flashes across my screen. Level 20. Cams down. Hello, Space Janitor here. I don't fix cams, I just dust them. I lean in and swipe a sleeve over the cam I'm talking to. Rash waits until I lean back to roll his eyes. But I'll take a look while I'm out there. I flick the banner and the details pop up. They've been out for 20 minutes. So why didn't the alert come in right away? Why didn't you tag repair? 2 can play the finger-pointing game. Rash holds up his hands. I did. I'm just yanking your charging cable, Moore. We'll watch the store while you're out. I sign off, forward the calls to ops, and lock the MCC behind me. I bat the shiny green fringe on one of those zarking tinsel curtains out of my way and stride to the level 2 concourse. A thick airlock door separates the repair and maintenance section from the rest of level 2. I wave my ring at the door. It cycles open. A wave of sounds slams into my eardrums. I fight my way through another tinsel curtain, this time red, and out into the crowded concourse. Throngs of people crowd the open space, everyone with a cup, mug, or bottle in hand. Inflatable reindeer and a huge sparkly sleigh hang from the ceiling. A vendor sells something sticky-looking from a little cart on the far side of the space. A bar has been set up outside the small pub on my right, and a line of people wait in line for spiced wine. Fine white confetti whirls through the space, floating on the wafts of circulating air. Christmas is still 3 days away, but when the holiday falls on a Monday, the party starts on Friday. "Merry Christmas!" someone sings out, and a cheer goes up. Scents of cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg tease my nose, and I sneeze. Inane Christmas music plays over the concourse speakers. His little red spaceship shoots across the sky with 8 engines racing. Just watch them fly. A team full of elves printed presents all year on the planet North Pole with the magic reindeer. Space Santa, watch him fly. Space Santa, he's our guy. Space Santa bringing gifts to all. Space Santa, a Space Santa. Someone shoves a beaker into my hand. It looks like eggnog, but the fumes indicate a high level of alcohol. I hand it off to someone else as I make my way through the crowd. Puffs of white cottony snow lie in drifts at the base of the float tubes. A stray tuft wafts up inside the tube as I watch. Shaking my head, I step into the tube and follow. At level 20, the party continues. Here the decorations are blue and white instead of red and green, and a 2-meter-tall dreidel spins above our heads. Someone shoves a glass of blue liquid at me, shouting, "Matzel Pop!" I battle my way through the horde, throwing a few gentle hip checks along the way. Ducking into Radial 7, I hurry out station and turn again at C-Ring. The sounds of the party fade to a muted rumble, and I wave my ring at an access door. Ducking through the entry, I scramble through the quiet bot duct, bent almost double to avoid the pipes above my head. Some of the bot access ducts are tall enough to allow easy access for workers, but in these older, lower levels, a lot of them have been modified over time. The conduits have been added for additional wiring and plumbing. The space above them is often illegally co-opted by residents, providing extra storage. Sometimes it's rented out on the black market to bring in extra credits. A few meters in, I reach bot 23D. It's humming quietly, so I tap the control panel. The tiny screen lights up and shows all systems green. "Why are you just sitting here?" I ask. But the bot doesn't answer, which is a good thing. They don't have voice response. I run diagnostics just to confirm the green screen, but nothing pops up. Crawling over the bot, I check underneath and all around. Nothing on the floor that would stop it from moving. Some of the bots are designed to follow painted cues on the floor, but this is not one of those bots. And the floor is clean. I hit the resume button, then jump away as the bot tries to continue on its pre-programmed route. It stops harmlessly, a couple centimeters from my legs. Looking up, I spot the girders from which the conduits are suspended. I grab the girder and pull my legs up, in the kind of crunch I've seen Kara do. As soon as my legs are out of the way, the bot putters beneath me and away on its business. I drop back onto my feet. Fixing bots and getting a workout at the same time. Way to multitask, Triana. I rub my stomach, wondering if one crunch counts as working out. It's Christmas, so yeah, it does. The bot bleeps again, stopping about 10 meters away. Maybe there's a loose chip or wire. This is going to take some major diagnostic work. Opening the command screen via my hollow ring, I flick the Suspend the Route button and input a Return to Garage command. Execute another perfect gymnastic feat to allow the bot to head back the way we both came. 2 crunches. Maybe I'll reward myself with one of those sticky pastries when I get back to level 2. With a yelp, I swing up into a 3rd crunch as the repair drone I sent up earlier whizzes toward me, hot on the trail of the vacuum bot. I am definitely getting the sticky bun. I wander further up the duct. Obviously, the repair drone never reached the stalled bot. Maybe there was something up here causing the trouble. I reach a cross duct. A movement to my right draws my eyes. Then I do a double take. A young-looking man with flowing white blonde hair sits cross-legged in the center of the duct. His head is bowed, his powerful shoulders nearly touch the duct sides, and a snug red shirt stretches across his abs and pecs. I straighten in surprise and bang my head against the conduit. Fork! The man's head pops up. and his startling blue eyes fix on me.
"Spoon?"
he replies uncertainly. Rubbing my head, I step closer. Who are you? And what are you doing in my bot duct? He cocks his head, as if considering my question.
"Is this your duct?"
I'm a maintenance tech, so yeah, it's my duct, I say, belligerent. Who are you? He shakes his head, his thick hair swinging around his face.
"I don't have a good answer for you."
Look, if you're too drunk to remember your name, I can get you some buzzkill and send you on your way. I've encountered lost partiers before. I won't call security, but you can't stay here. He pushes a hand through his hair.
"I don't feel drunk. I just don't remember my name."
His eyes widen.
Or how I got here. Or where I came from.
What do you remember? I ran into some criminals a few months ago who used a memory-wiping drug. Maybe this guy got a dose somehow. The guy's stomach growls loudly.
"I definitely don't remember when I ate last."
He smiles at me, the expression lighting up his face.
"Would you like to join me for dinner?"
Two. I give the guy a flat look. If that's a pickup line, it needs work. Besides, I have a boyfriend. Kind of. He's gone a lot, and frankly, I'm never quite sure what our status is. Anyway, it's closer to lunchtime. He shakes his head, his blonde hair swishing.
"Not a line. I really am hungry, and I'd prefer not to eat alone."
He reaches into his pocket, pulls out a pile of paper and coins, and laughs. It's a deep, sexy laugh.
"It seems I have some cash, so my treat."
Looking at the wad in his hand, my eyes widen. You've got a lot of credits there. You might want to put those away before we head out into the station. Level 20 is not a great place to be flashing cash around unless you're sprezhai. At his blank look, I elaborate. Polish mafia? They run the mid-levels of the station.
"So we're on a space station?"
He asks conversationally as I lead the way toward the duct exit. My head whips around, and I bonk it on the overhead again. Fork! I rub my head. You didn't even know you're on the station? He shrugs, his bent-over position making the movement awkward. We half crawl, half walk the rest of the way out of the duct in silence. Finally exiting the duct, the man stands up. Fully upright, and in the good light of the C-ring, the guy is even better looking. The icy blonde hair frames high cheekbones, a straight nose, and those sapphire blue eyes. The red fabric of his shirt stretches across powerful pecs, strong biceps, and tight abs. His jeans are snug enough to show off solid thighs, but not too tight, leaving some things to the imagination. My temperature ratchets up a few degrees, and I feel like fanning myself like those ladies in the ancient history vids. I drag my eyes upward and find him grinning at me. My face flushes, but luckily my caramel skin doesn't show the blush too badly. Come on, I say grumpily. I'll take you to my favorite noodle place. You're buying. We face each other across a red plaid tablecloth with the words Hot Good Noodles splashed in white. We plug our orders into the waitbot and send it on its way. So, what should I call you? I fiddle with a chopstick. He gives me that considering look again and shrugs.
"Dunno. What do I look like? A Dave?"
His eyes twinkle.
"A Rudolfo?"
He flutters his eyelashes.
"How about Dr. Intense?"
He lowers his brows and stares at me through narrowed eyes. I'm going to call you Fabio.
"Because I'm fabulous?"
Because you look like a guy from the ancient TV vids who is named Fabio. I poke the chopstick at him. Practically a dead ringer. He mutters the name to himself a couple times.
"Nope. Not feeling it."
How about Scott? Why Scott? That doesn't sound as fabulous. The waitbot trundles up and opens its cargo door to reveal steaming bowls. I pull them out and put one in front of each of us. He shrugs.
Just sounds like a good name. Someone trustworthy and helpful. A friend.
Scott it is, then. I scoop up some noodles. I'm Triana, by the way. We eat in silence, except for the slurping of noodles. Scott polishes off the first bowl in record time and orders a second.
That was delicious. I feel like I haven't eaten in weeks. Do they have cake here?
We can find some cake later. Or one of those sticky buns. Right now, we need to talk about you. Who are you? What are you doing here? Do you have a hollow ring?
What's a hollow ring?
He eagerly pulls his second bowl from the bot. You're kidding, right? Everyone has a hollow ring. I flick my ring and a browser pops up in Palm. It's how we connect to the net. I flick through a few screens and a vid of Fabio pops up. I guess you don't look as much like him as I thought. The fact is, Fabio looks like Scott's less attractive, older brother.
That's pretty neat,
Scott says.
Can I get one?
Can we focus? Scott shrugs and goes back to his bowl.
What are we focusing on?
I sigh. Who you are? If you don't have a hollow ring, you aren't from the station. You must be from one of the ships. Let's find you a place to stay, and I'll see what I can find out. My ring pings, and a message pops up. Bot 23D has returned to the garage. No problem reports. Sark! I jump up out of my chair. I'm supposed to be working. I gotta get back to the MCC. Somehow, the need to help Scott completely overrode my common sense. It's like I totally forgot I was in the middle of a work day. Scott picks up his bowl and slurps down the last of the noodles. He wipes his mouth and smiles.
I'm ready when you are.
Come on, I need to hand you off to security and get back to work. You can't come to the MCC with me. Scott nods.
Okay. Whatever you think is best.
We take the float tubes up to level 40, and I direct him to the door of the security office. These guys can run a DNA check and figure out where you belong. Thanks for lunch, but I gotta run. Give me a call when you get it all figured out.
How would I do that?
He asks. Oh, you don't have a hollow. I think for a moment. Just ask them to send me a message. Triana Moore, in maintenance. They can get it to me. He nods as the door slides open.
Thanks for your help, Triana Moore of maintenance.
I smile. You're welcome, Scott of the bot duct. Back in the MCC, I'm surprised to see no maintenance calls in the queue. Nothing went wrong while I was gone. The bots all performed perfectly. Maybe I should play hooky more often. I pull up vids from the bot duct where I found Scott. I give myself a mental head slap. I was so distracted by him, I forgot to check the cams while I was out there. But the cam down banner is gone. Checking the vids, it appears the cams came back online as soon as Scott and I exited the duct. In fact, the first frames are a glimpse of me closing the duct access door behind us. I switched to the cams outside in C-Ring, but they went down seconds before the duct cams came back up. Incredulous, I pull up a series of temporary cam outages that show our progress through the station. This can't be real. Level 20 concourse, cams down for 90 seconds at exactly the time we took the float tube up to level 23. Level 23 concourse, cams down for 65 seconds while we crossed to the noodle place. Hot good noodles, cams out for 27 minutes at exactly the time we were there. Level 23 concourse down again for 53 seconds. Level 40 concourse down for 48 seconds. Radial 6 cams down for 83 seconds. I pull up the security office, but their internal cams are working fine. Except there's no footage of Scott. Scrolling back and forth more frantically now, I can't find any visual evidence of him. The cams outside the security office were dead. They came back on as I left the area, just after Scott went through the door. But the vid inside the office never wavered. At the time Scott should have gone in, the vid shows the door sliding open and closed. No one walked in. I rub my face. I didn't drink any of the libations flowing so freely out in the concourse. We didn't stop at the Wacky Weed Bakery. What is going on? How could Scott be disrupting cams? How did he not show up inside the security office? Three. The shuttle dock on level 4 is my favorite bar, although tonight it's louder than usual. Something about the holiday spirit, I guess. I tap in order and the bar bot brings me a beer. My roommate Kara and her boyfriend Erko are supposed to meet me for a drink. Erko came up from the planet today to spend Christmas with Kara. Since Ty, my sort of boyfriend, is on a mission dirt side, I didn't bother going back to our compartment to change. My station coveralls blend in nicely at the shuttle dock.
Hey, Moore, how's bots?
Farquaad, who works in ops, hollers as he strolls by with a guy wearing pink scrubs. I wave and smile as they continue on. A couple guards from the detention cells on level 1 eye the empty stools at my table hopefully. But I shake my head and they walk away.
Is this seat taken?
A deep voice asks. I look up, and there's Scott. He's so beautiful he takes my breath away for an instant. I shake my head. I have friends coming. If you can find another chair, you can join us. That challenge should take several minutes on this crowded night. Maybe I can get my thoughts together. He returns almost immediately with another tall chair and squeezes it in beside me. How did you find a stool so fast? I demand. He gives me that million-watt smile.
People like to help me.
Yeah, like the people in the security office? I give him the stink eye. How did you do that? He blinks those beautiful blue eyes.
Do what?
Any of it. Disrupt my bots? Interrupt the cams? Not go into the security office? I checked the security logs. You never arrived there, even after I watched you walk through the door.
How do you check the security logs?
He counters.
Never mind. Can you show me how to order a beer?
I stab at the table and point to the list of beers on the auto bar menu. Take your pick. As to how did I check the logs, I'm a maint tech. I have access to everything on this station. Not officially, but I have no problems accessing data. I've been known to hack a bit. Scott selects a beer and feeds some bills into the table slot I indicate.
I didn't want to bother the security folks. I figured you could help me just as well, without leaving any official record. It occurred to me that I could get in trouble for being here without proper ID or authorizations or something.
A tray descends from the ceiling, holding a frosty mug. Scott takes the beer, and the robotic arm snaps the tray vertical, then ascends and scoots back through the opening in the wall.
Fancy.
Bar bots are faster, cheaper, and more reliable than human waiters. I gesture up to the bar boss on the catwalk above the room. She's keeping an eye on the whole place and can fix the bot arms if they malfunction. They use hover delivery in the upper levels, but the lower levels are the older parts of the station. If the old tech ain't broke, we don't fix it. We watch in silence for a few minutes as robotic arms deliver drinks and snacks all around the room. A holo pops up on my table and asks if I'd like another beverage. I wave my holo ring through the yes, same order icon, authorizing payment. I pick up the glass and drain the last centimeter as the robot arm delivers another. This time, the tray stays horizontal, allowing me to return my glass. The sales prompt is triggered by the level of liquid in your glass, so if you don't want any more, leave a couple gulps in the bottom. Otherwise, you'll have to keep fending off the ads. I fix my eyes on him. But don't think you can distract me with your vid actor looks and your helpless tourist attitude. I want to know what you're doing to my cams. A thought hits me, and I flick my holo ring. As I suspected, the OS vid feeds from the shuttle dock bar are offline. I stab my finger at the holo. How are you doing that? Scott shakes his head.
I'm not doing anything? What are you even showing me?
Everywhere you go, the cams stop working. You're completely invisible to the station OS. I probably shouldn't have told him that.
I can see why that would bother you.
He takes a long drink from his mug.
You all like to keep an eye on things. Very big brother of you.
I give him a puzzled look, but ignore his statement. How are you doing it?
I don't know. I'm not doing it on purpose. Maybe it's my magnetic personality.
He grins, eyes twinkling. I punch down the warmth in my stomach. Stop using your Fabio charm on me. I want to know what's going on. He holds up his hands.
I really don't know. Maybe if I remembered who I am, it would all make sense. But right now, I haven't a clue.
I grind my teeth. That's what security was supposed to help with, remember? DNA check?
You have access to everything.
He blinks those huge blue eyes innocently at me.
Can't you do the check? Off the record?
I growl, but he's saved when Kara and Erko pick that exact moment to arrive. Who's the hottie? Kara whispers as Erko and Scott bump fists. If I wasn't taken, I'd be all over that. She eyes him up and down, admiring his tight black jeans, the thin forest green sweater clinging to his chest, and his flowing blonde hair. Hey! I point a finger at Scott. Where'd you get those clothes? He grins, shoving the sleeves up over his strong, lightly haired forearms. A tattoo encircles his left wrist and spirals up into his sleeve. It looks like some kind of vine.
There's a sale up on 37. I got a locker at the spaceport and went shopping. Good thing I have some money.
He turns to Kara and Erko.
I seem to have some amnesia, and Triana here is going to help me find my way home.
Erko and Kara exclaim. Scott gives them the rundown. I watch him through narrowed eyes. Who is he, and what is he really trying to pull? He has a charisma that is mesmerizing. When he speaks, it becomes difficult to focus on anything else. As he wraps up his story, Kara drags her eyes away from him. What does Ty think about all this? She asks me.
Who's Ty?
Scott lifts an eyebrow. Ty O'Neill, board security agent. Erko waves at me. He and Triana are kind of a thing. Super good guy. He can help you, I'm sure. I roll my eyes. I'm perfectly capable of helping Scott myself. Besides, O'Neill isn't even on station right now. No. I cut Kara off. I haven't talked to him today. No reason to bother him about this. Kara smiles. Good move. You wouldn't want him all hot and bothered by, She pauses, lazily looking Scott up and down. All this. Scott winks at Kara. Ugh. I'm not hiding anything. We'll be talking tonight. But hopefully, I'll have Scott sorted out before then. My hollow buzzes, interrupting with a priority 1 call. The voice in my audio implant sets my teeth on edge. Would you excuse me a moment? I say to the table in general. The ice dame calls. I send the call to hold and stride out of the bar. Around the corner and down the radial, there's a little alcove that provides some privacy. Unfortunately, it's currently occupied. I tap the closest shoulder. Pointing to the main tech patch on my shoulder, I say, Atmo leak, and the two scramble away. Idiot civilians. How could there be an atmosphere leak this far inside the station? Leaning against the wall, I put the call through. Sorry to keep you waiting, Mother. I'm not. Annabelle, I require assistance. Is that an edge of panic in the Ice Dame's voice? Unheard of. You need my help? Where's Jaime? Jaime is Mother's personal assistant and has been organizing the little details of her life for longer than I've been around. Mother runs SK2, and Jaime keeps her under control, which keeps the rest of us from leaping out an airlock. Jaime is handling the party. I need help with something else. Come up. I'll expect you in 10 minutes. I wish I could ignore the summons, but since Dame Morgan authorizes the paychecks, I know when to shut up and color. Gotta go help the Ice Dame, I tell Kara, Erko, and Scott when I get back to the table. Some Christmas party disaster, I'm sure. I give Kara a hug and whisper, I'll stay upstairs tonight. Scott follows me out the door. I stop and face him. Where are you going?
I'm coming to help you. I'm excellent at Christmas party disasters.
I narrow my eyes. Really? You don't know your name, but you know you're good at party disasters? He shakes his head.
I know I'm good at Christmas. I don't know how I know, but I do.
Okay, I say, eyeing him speculatively. But security is going to run a DNA search at the door.
Excellent! 2 birds with 1 stone.
He smiles and gestures to the concourse. We take the float tubes up to level 82. Am I crazy to take this guy up to the penthouse? I know nothing about him except that he disrupts cams. Talk about a perfect opportunity for a terrorist. But somehow, I trust Scott, even when all my common sense is trying to convince me otherwise. I open the old-fashioned door next to the float tube. Scott follows me through, into a small, well-appointed lobby.
Good evening, Sarah Morgan.
The guard sitting behind the high counter slides off his chair and to his feet. Hey, Rafe. Can you do a visitor pass for Scott here? I gesture to my companion. Scott puts his hand on the scan plate and winces when the tiny needle bites his finger. We wait as the system chugs through its data. Finally, a tiny square pops out of a slot on the desk. Scott and I lean forward to look.
The system says you don't use a hollow ring.
Rafe says in surprise. He picks up the pass, a clear patch about a centimeter square.
Please hold out your hand, Sir Calvin.
Rafe smooths the patch onto the back of Scott's hand, where it disappears.
This is an accompanied pass. Please stay with an authorized resident of the level at all times.
Scott grins.
I'll stick to her like glue.
Hey, Rafe, can I see your screen? I ask.
Sure,
he replies, but then he swears.
Sorry, Sarah Morgan, but the data went blank.
He taps a few icons.
I can't get it back.
What did it say about Scott? I mean, Sir Calvin. He shrugs.
It had a green banner, so I didn't read the details. It said he was authorized guest access and didn't have a hollow. I'm sure you can look him up.
He gives me a perplexed look. Of course I can. No big deal. I gesture to the float tube behind Rafe's desk. After you, Sir Calvin. At the top of the float tube, we step out into another lobby. This larger room contains plush seating groups, live flower arrangements, and a grand piano. An attractive woman dressed in green and red velvet with white trim is playing Christmas standards, even though no one is in the room. I always wonder if Rafe lets her know when someone is coming, and she just starts mid-song. Good evening, Sarah Morgan. Sir Calvin, she says. Question answered. She definitely got a heads up from downstairs. Scott smiles broadly.
Merry Christmas, dear lady.
With a roll of my eyes, I grab him by the arm and steer him towards the door marked A. Scott Calvin, I say. Why does that name sound familiar? I shake my head. Does that ring any bells?
Not really. Why are they calling you Sarah Morgan? I thought your name was Moore.
I puff out a breath and my hair bounces. My birth name is Annabelle Morgan. I ran away when I was 18 and became a space janitor, as my mother likes to call me. It's a long story. He shrugs.
I've got nowhere to go. Literally.
I wave my hollow ring at compartment A, and the door slides open, silent and efficient. As we step into the foyer, it closes behind us, cutting off the strains of Christmas in Andromeda. The compartment looks like someone hired home decor elves who drank too much coffee and had an unlimited budget at Casey's Christmas Castle. Fragrant Cocuvian pine boughs cascade down the curving staircase. A huge tree stands by the windows, covered in twinkling silver lights, sparkling silver ornaments, and glittering silver tinsel. Every vase, frame, and knick-knack in the place shines in green and silver glory. Even the furniture has been reupholstered in shades of dark green and silver. In the center of the room, a woman wearing red velvet droops despondently on the edge of a green velvet armchair.
beautiful, Scott says. The room, the tree, that dress, so festive. I stare at him. Dial it back, brown noser, I mutter. Turning to the woman, I wave toward Scott. Mother, may I present Scott Calvin? Scott, this is Dame Imogen Morgan. Mother raises her head. She's well over 60, but rejuvenation treatments and expensive aesthetics make her look more like my sister than my mother. My younger sister, if I'm honest with myself. Her honey blonde hair spills down her back, almost to her waist. Ice blue eyes, perfectly shaped brows, and high cheekbones give her oval face the look of a storybook princess. She smiles sadly at Scott. Delighted to meet you, Sir Calvin, but I wasn't expecting any guests. Just my daughter. Annabelle said you had a Christmas emergency, Scott says, and that's my specialty. How can I be of service? Mother rises so gracefully she seems to levitate off the chair. They tried to teach me to move like that when I was younger, but I just never got the hang of it. It's nothing, sir, just a minor family issue. He laughs his deep, rich chuckle. Call me Scott. And is there really any such thing as a minor family issue, please? Let me help. Maybe I can leave Scott to help and go back to the shuttle dock. What woman wouldn't be happy with a handsome guy like him to do her bidding? Mother reaches a limp hand to me. Annabelle, dear, thank you for coming to help me. I roll my eyes. Scott, would you excuse us for a moment? I offer him a seat, call a bevbot to take his drink order, and chivvy my mother into the office. Shutting the door, I turn around and stare at the ice dame. Cut the crap, Mother. This depressed damsel in distress thing is really not a good look for you. My mother fixes her icy blue eyes on me. Just come up on your own next time, she snaps. I have a reputation to maintain. I laugh. Everyone knows you're a shrewd and ruthless businesswoman. I'm not sure what game you're playing. She points a finger at the door. You brought him into this house. I'm trying to salvage the situation. You know who he is? I'm about to ask, but realize I can't admit I brought a total stranger into the most secure part of the station. Do you want me to take him away? Of course I don't want you to take him away. Treat him with respect. We can't have him thinking we're anything but the most civilized of families. Now I'm really wondering who this guy is. Who could put the legendary Ice Dame into such a tizzy? What did you want help with, Mother? We can talk later. We've kept him waiting too long. She opens the door. So sorry to leave you alone, Sir Scott. Mother fawns all over Scott for a full 45 minutes. I listen closely but don't get any additional clues to his identity. Sitting back in the couch, I sigh heavily. Mistake. Mother turns those icy eyes on me. Did you need something, dear? Her voice drips menace. I was just wondering if Dav left anything tasty in the kitchen. Would you like some dessert, Scott? I smile at Mother. Let's see her get out of that. She doesn't. Excellent idea, dear. Why don't you go see what you can scare up? Scott tries to demur, but I'm off the couch like a rocket and out the door before he can open his mouth. He wanted to come up here. He can deal with the Ice Dame. In the kitchen, I find some mini Kentucky bourbon pecan tarts. Sliding them onto a plate, I start the coffee maker and pull up my link to the OS. I run searches on Scott Calvin, pull up lists of important CEOs, and even try searching on reclusive non-hollow using power broker. Nothing comes up. I start a facial recognition program I borrowed from my former friend Glitch. It'll take a while, but it's the best. Taking a deep breath, I grab the tray and head back into the living room. You're amazing, Mother coos. A chill crawls across my shoulders at the tone of her voice, so out of character for her. That's the perfect idea. Annabelle, dear, Scott has come up with the perfect gift for Roger. You're off the hook.
I set the tray down on the coffee table and stare at her. That was your big emergency? You needed a present for Roger? Picking up her coffee cup, she turns her gaze on me. Showing our loved ones that we care for them is what Christmas is all about. But I'm sure you've had the perfect gift for Agent O'Neill for months. She smiles, a viciously delighted smile. Zark, I haven't gotten anything for O'Neill. 4. I put my plate on the tray and gulp down the last of my coffee. Scott and I should be going, Mother. Scott needs to check in at the hotel, and I promised to show him down. Nonsense, the ice dame replies. Sir Calvin can't stay in a hotel. I have a perfectly good guest suite going empty. You'll stay here with me, won't you, Scott? Zark. He has a reservation, I start to say, but Scott interrupts.
I really don't want to impose.
He puts his fork on his plate.
That was the best pecan tart I've had in ages. Your pastry chef is amazing.
Yes, Dev is a treasure. The Gates have been trying to steal him for years. Mother smiles complacently. If you stay, you can try his waffles in the morning. They are to die for. I can't believe that phrase came out of her mouth. She's really channeling her inner fangirl. Scott shrugs and looks at me, his blue eyes sparkling.
You've convinced me. I can't say no to Dav's waffles.
I stomp up the stairs behind Scott and my gushing mother. She points out the famous paintings and sculptures as we climb, describing the special security built into the external walls of the station. She gestures toward the hallway to the private suites, stopping just short of winking at Scott as she does. I try not to vomit and think about bringing up Roger's name. Annabelle's room is the first on the left, she tells Scott. I gasp. Is she trying to pimp me out? This is the guest suite. Mother waves the door open. Annabelle will send a code to your ID patch so you can access it. She doesn't even glance my direction, as if I'm some menial employee. Well, I guess I am. But I'm also her daughter. Although, to be fair, I usually don't want her to remember that. I'll leave you here. Enjoy your night. She actually winks at Scott this time, then disappears down the hall. I grind my teeth and shove Scott into the guest suite. He opens his mouth, but I fling up a hand. Scrolling through the OS, I double-check that Scott's disruptor effect is still working. Okay, who the heck are you? I growl as soon as I'm sure she can't eavesdrop. Scott grins at me.
I guess I must be someone pretty important. I can't remember ever being the object of that much brown-nosing. Of course, I can't remember anything before this morning. So there's that.
Seriously, cut the crap. I spit the words out. The system recognized and tagged you as a VIP. What kind of scam are you running? I drop onto the love seat. Like all the guest suites on the penthouse level, it's plush. Thick carpet conceals the deck, and luxurious fabrics cover the walls and the plush, modern furniture. Like all bedrooms up here, it's an internal room. Protection from stray meteors while they slept won out over dramatic views for the top levs. There's a space light, a window in the ceiling that allows occupants to see the stars. But it isn't real. The scene is projected by expensive equipment to provide a lifelike experience. There are actually several meters of titanium overhead. The large room holds a small seating area with love seat and reclining massage chair, a large bookcase that blocks part of the room, and a huge bed hidden behind that. A full bath opens off the far end of the room, beyond the bed. A small auto kitchen is hidden inside built-in cabinets made of real Kokuvian oak. Thick, heavy wood that screams privilege on a space station made of materials that had to be launched into orbit. Scott sits down beside me, and I flick open the OS. I pull up the security system, worming my way into the restricted databases. The file Rafe saw has to be stored in here somewhere.
Don't forget to give me access to the door, Scott says.
I'm not giving you access to anything until I know who you are, I mutter. At least this way I know you can't sneak out and murder us in our sleep.
Scott's face falls. I would never harm anyone. How can you suggest such a thing?
If you really have no idea who you are, you don't know that's true, do you? I snap. And if you're lying about your memory loss, I have a very good reason to not trust you. Besides, it's not like I'm locking you up in a cell with a metal toilet. You could live happily in here for months. Scott looks around the room and nods thoughtfully.
I guess you're right.
Sark, this file has nothing! I flip through the screens. Here's the approval. It says cleared for VIP guest access and your name, but nothing else. How did the system even identify you as this Sir Calvin? Wait a minute. I flick a couple more details, then narrow my eyes at him. This says you're Scott Calvin. If your memory is so faulty, how did you manage to pick your actual real first name? Scott holds up his hands.
I don't know. Maybe it's buried deep in my brain and managed to surface. I told you it felt right. Better than Fabio.
He bumps his shoulder into mine. I conquer the desire to smile back at him. Something's not right. I am definitely not giving you access to the door. You'll stay here for the night, where I can make sure you're not causing any havoc. I stomp out of the room before I can change my mind, making sure it shuts and locks behind me. As I walk to my own room, I set up motion-activated cam alerts outside his door and double-check the latches. I want to know if he manages to get out. Five. Back in my childhood bedroom, I lay on the bed and stare blankly at the space light. How could I have forgotten to get a Christmas present for O'Neill? My brain spins as I try to come up with a suitable gift. What do you get for the guy who might be your boyfriend? A tiny voice in my head suggests I ask Scott, but I squash it back down. A vibration from my hollow ring wakes me from a light doze. The facial recognition app has found a match. I flick the icon and pull up the file. Match. Scott Calvin. That's all it says! No catalog of pictures and videos from cams around the station. No information about planet of origin, occupation, education, nothing. No financial links, none of the information this app normally presents. Just a test. I take a selfie and run it through the system. Within minutes, it pulls up both my names, my certification from the Techno Inst, my current occupation, my station clearances, random pics and vid of me in the public parts of the station. Everything. I pull pics of friends and family from my personal files and run them through the system. Roger takes the longest, since he's the oldest, yet newest to the station. But eventually it pulls even his date and location of birth. Zark, he's old. I drum my fingers on the bedspread, totally flummoxed. How can the system identify Scott's name, but nothing else? A call on my hollow wakes me again. I smile. It's Ty. Hey, I say, brilliantly.
Hey, yourself.
He gives me that smile that sends a heat wave through my chest.
Sorry to call so late, but I figured on a Friday night you'd be asleep on the sofa after watching ancient TV.
Close, but no. I flip the hollow up onto the ceiling and lay back on the bed, looking up at him. I'm up on 83, laying on my bed, not watching ancient TV. Ty stares.
Really? Of your own volition? Blink twice if I need to come break you out.
Like she could keep me here. I laugh, then sober. No, there's some weird stuff going on. I give him the rundown on Scott Calvin.
So, you didn't have a clue who he was, but let Rafe pass him through to 83?
Ty's voice sounds strangled.
You know you're going to give me a heart attack.
Better check if they have a defibrillator down there. But I figured Rafe must know who he was. In fact, I let him come up because I figured the board sec system would identify him. I rub my eyes. Does it do this often?
Allow unknown interlopers access to the chair of the board? No.
His face is hard. Zark, he's mad at me. No, I mean identify someone as a VIP but completely hide the data used to make that decision. I hope so.
You wish.
But he looks thoughtful. Although, there are certain individuals who might trigger that kind of secure approval, at least at the guard station.
But you have access to everything I do. You should be able to see his details.
Maybe it's above your pay grade. I joke. He gives me a look.
Maybe. Look, I just want to know you're safe. Then I won't worry.
I've got motion detectors set outside his room. I reassure him. And if his magic cam scrambling effect turns off those detectors, the scrambling itself will activate an alarm. I pull up the cam files. He hasn't moved from his room. Unless he can sneak out through the space light. I laugh.
Not even undocumented VIPs can do that.
He settles back into his chair.
Still, you could go stay at my place.
And leave Mother up here alone with him? I brought him up. He's my responsibility. I grin fiendishly. More importantly, I want to get in on Dav's waffles in the morning.
Aha! I knew there was a real reason.
We chat a few more minutes, but he starts yawning. Why don't you go to bed? I'll talk to you tomorrow. The waffles exceed expectations, as always. And yes, I know that's implausible, but so are Dav's waffles. Light and fluffy, sweet or savory, topped with fruit, syrups, whipped cream, fried eggs, sautéed vegetables, anything you can imagine. Dav's food never disappoints.
Please, Sir Calvin, Scott, stay and enjoy for as long as you like.
Mother pats her lips with a linen napkin and rises.
Unfortunately, I have meetings to attend, so I must depart. Annabelle, please bring Sir Calvin by my office before you leave.
She sails out of the room. As soon as she's safely behind closed doors, Dav emerges from the kitchen.
That woman is driving me crazy.
I stare at Dav in surprise. He never refers to his employer in that tone. Is she demanding miniature ice sculptures again? When I was a kid, she insisted on having a tiny carved ice sculpture at each place setting. Of course, mini ice sculptures become puddles about 20 minutes after you put them out, but Mother insisted. Dav's final solution involved a specially built table with tiny temperature fields by each plate. The table cost a fortune and was never used again. Dav blinks at me.
No, of course not. I wish. We still have that stupid table in storage. No, I was talking about her.
He jerks a thumb over his shoulder. Who? Did you hire an assistant? Heaven knows you could use one for the holiday season. I peer beyond him, but the door to the kitchen is closed. Scott leans back in his seat and watches us silently.
She's an intern,
Dav growls.
She's done half a year at the Culinary Institute of Kaku, and she's here between terms. She thinks she knows everything.
Why don't you fire her? I ask.
She's Don Huatang's granddaughter,
Dav whispers. I groan. Gloria is interning in your kitchen? She didn't attend the Culinary Institute. She's been here on station all year.
It's a virtual program specifically developed for top-level students who can't commit to a long period in one location.
Dav pinches the bridge of his nose. Scott sits up.
Virtual culinary school? That's a thing?
It's a thing for top levs who will never work in the field and just want to accrue degrees. Most of them never get through the first year because it requires too much effort. My lip curls. That very program was one of the reasons I ran away and changed my name. I wanted a real degree, not a gold leaf embossed virtual sheepskin. Talk to Mother, I tell Dav. She'd love a reason to stick it to Don Huatang's family. I can't believe she even allowed Gloria in her home. Dav drops his head into his hands.
I didn't tell her it was Gloria. An old friend from the CIK begged me to take her on, and I was afraid Dame Morgan would say no. So I just asked her if I could bring in an intern. I didn't mention who it was, and Dame Morgan didn't care as long as she passed the security checks, which, of course, Gloria didn't even need. I didn't realize how awful she would be.
A crash and a screech ring out from the kitchen. Dav leaps to his feet.
Oh, holy night, what is she doing now? I have 200 figgy puddings steaming in there.
He lunges to the kitchen door. Before he reaches it, the door slides open. Gloria appears, steam billowing around her. She's wearing traditional chef's garb of black and white checked pants and a pristine white coat with a tiny red CIK logo on the shoulder. The jacket has been altered to fit tight to her torso, with a very low-cut scoop neckline to show off her enormous boobs. "Oh, chef, you might want to check your equipment. It appears to be malfunctioning." With a growl, Dav pushes past her out of the room, while Gloria saunters toward us. She smiles at me, her hair a wild red halo around her head. "I thought this look was appropriate for the help," she says, gently tugging a strand. I grit my teeth, resisting the urge to push my own naturally red curls out of my eyes. "Don't you have some dishes to wash, Gloria?" She ignores me, transferring her attention to Scott. "Good morning, sexy. If I'd known you were here, I would have volunteered to serve breakfast." She practically purrs as she sachets to him, hips swaying. She leans over his shoulder, reaching forward to pick up the coffee pot. Her ample bosom rubs against his arm.
Cream, 2 sugars,
Scott says, not looking at her.
and I'd like another bagel, thanks.
Without missing a beat, he smiles at me.
What are we doing today, Annabelle?
Gloria's teeth grind as she snaps upright. "Get your own coffee." She stomps away. "That was awesome," I say after the kitchen door closes behind her. "If you can think of a way to get rid of her completely, I'm sure Dav would supply you with waffles for a lifetime. She's probably in there sabotaging his entire menu." Scott shrugs.
It should be easy enough to engineer a catastrophic spill. There's a reason chefs normally wear long sleeves and high-necked jackets. Why doesn't he do that?
I shake my head. Dav would never purposely sacrifice food. Think of something else.
I'll work on it.
He pushes back his chair and stands, then holds out a hand to me.
Shall we escape this gilded cage?
We say our farewells to Mother, after assuring her we will return that night for the Christmas party. I really don't want to come, but Scott eagerly accepts, so I agree. "You're going to regret that," I mutter as we step out into the Level 83 lobby. S-Corp parties are so boring. Lots of corporate stooges kissing up to board members. It wouldn't be too bad if you could drink enough to take the edge off, but Mother spikes the food with buzzkill. Only Nikolai Bezos manages to drink enough to stay tipsy. We cross to the float tubes.
Hey, Annabelle.
A slurred voice warbles.
You looking for me?
I spin around. Nikolai Bezos sprawls across one of the heavy couches, waving a mug at me. Speak of the devil. Nikolai sits up and holds out a flask.
Eggnog. You want some?
Nick, it's 9 a.m. I take a few steps toward him. Have you been drinking all night? As I approach, a waft of alcohol, stale sweat, and a twinge of vomit assault my nose. Nick's bloodshot eyes peer at me from between puffy lids. His clothes are wrinkled, stained, and stiff. He shrugs.
All night, all day, whatever. It's Christmas. I love eggnog. Who's your friend?
That's Scott. I don't think he wants any eggnog either. You should go home, Nick. Scott steps over and reaches out a hand. Nikolai bumps fists. With a twist of his wrist, Scott grips Nick's hand and pops him up off the couch. Scott swings him around and gets a shoulder under his arm.
Let's get you home, friend.
I direct Scott to the Bezos' door. Fortunately, Dame Bezos' personal assistant responds to the doorbell. She takes one look at Nick and turns to us. "Thanks for bringing him home, Sarah Morgan. He's been drinking more and more since Bobby Putin left." I grimace and pass Nick off to her. "Can you handle him by yourself?"
I'm fine.
Nick straightens up.
I just need to get some sleep. Long night. Too much booze.
We stare at him. His face is a little green, but his voice is unslurred, and he's steady on his feet. I look at Scott. Did you slip him some buzzkill?
Scott shakes his head. Nope, I don't have any of that on me. Besides, I think it would have taken a whole bottle to sober him up. Annabelle, Scott, thanks for bringing me home.
Nikolai nods to each of us in turn.
But I have a splitting headache. Keandra, would you get me a med pack?
He disappears into the compartment. We all shrug at each other, and Keandra closes the door. Scott and I walk across the lobby. I pause by the float tube. That was weird.
Who's Bobby?
Scott asks.
His boyfriend?
No, more like a twin brother. They were BFFs before. I break off. It was messy. But Bobby's gone, Nick's girlfriend moved dirt side, and Nick's alone. The usual sad holiday story. 6. We exit the float tubes on level 6. I'm not sure I want Scott hanging around my compartment, but I really need to change clothes. I could have worn some of the abandoned clothing populating the closets of my room up on 83, but I can't pass up an opportunity to wear my station coverall in front of Mother. It seemed like a good idea this morning, but I'm feeling kind of funky by now. We swing down the radial to A ring, and I swipe open the door to our compartment. Loud voices assault our ears as we enter.
How can you even suggest that?
Kara shrieks.
No one does that. What kind of crazy planet did you go up on?
Eriko screams back.
Everyone does it that way. Your idea is insane. Get out! I can't be with someone who thinks that is okay. Just get out!
Kara flings a shoe at Eriko. He leaps out of the way, and it just misses his head.
Crazy, misguided, backward, idiotic. I can't. I just can't.
He stomps out of the compartment. Kara bursts into tears. She flings herself at me. Go after him. I mouth at Scott over Kara's shoulder. He gives me a nervous look, but follows Eriko out the door. Kara and I have been friends a long time, so I know how to deal with this. I hold her for a few minutes, letting her get the first wild sobs out. Then I lead her to the couch and settle her in the corner. Wrapping a blanket around her, I hand her a box of tissues. What do you want to drink? I ask. With a sniff, she dabs her eyes. Tea. With rum. Lots of rum. Not eggnog? I ask, thinking of Nikolai. Kara shudders. When the tea is ready, I pour in a stiff slug of Captain Drake and stir. Plopping down beside her on the couch, I hand her the cup. What happened? Kara's eyes fill with tears, so I hold up a hand. Whenever you're ready. I flip on a Christmas vid, and we watch in silence. Okay, I say when the vid ends. Do you want to talk about it? Kara sniffles and bobbles her head in a non-committal way. She takes a sip of her third cup of tea and pulls the blanket more tightly around her shoulders. Her makeup is smeared, leaving dark circles around her eyes and tear tracks down her cheeks. We were talking about Christmas. We sit in silence for a couple of minutes. And? I finally prompt when it becomes obvious she isn't continuing. And I can't believe anyone, She wipes away fresh tears.
This is so hard. I love him so much, but I don't know if I can be with him after this.
What?
I squeak. Taking a deep breath, I resist the urge to shake her. What did he do? Did he cheat on you?
No!
She cries, horror on her face.
Why would you think that?
Because you're crying? And you said you didn't know if you could stay with him? I get up from the couch to make my own cup of tea. Good thing today isn't a work day, because if she keeps up like this, I'm going to start drinking too.
No, nothing like that. It's just, how can you be with someone whose beliefs are so different from your own?
She blows her nose and takes another gulp of tea. Is he super religious? Or an atheist? During the years we've lived together, Kara has displayed a vague belief in God, but I've seen no active participation in any religion.
No, it's not religion.
She sniffles again and puts her cup down on the table. Taking a deep breath, she flings her arms out dramatically.
He thinks we should have beef for Christmas dinner.
My jaw drops. Beef?
I know! She exclaims. How could anyone have beef for Christmas? It's un-Cacovian.
I burst out laughing. Kara glares.
Stop laughing. This is important. No one on Cuckoo has beef for Christmas. No one. Everyone knows you eat turkey for the holidays. What kind of family does he come from if they eat beef for Christmas?
I laugh harder. Finally, eyes streaming, I lean against the counter and grab a tissue. Kara, if you're looking that hard for an excuse to dump him, just do it already. What do you mean?
I don't want to dump Erko. I love him. He's the most amazing guy I've ever dated. He makes me feel all warm and squishy. We were talking about registering a contract.
Really? I'm shocked. Although I guess I shouldn't be. Kara has dated a lot. Conservatively, I'd estimate about 80 guys in the 6 years we've been friends. When she's on a roll, she goes through them weekly. And keep in mind, she never dated while school was in session, so we're only talking summers during the first 4 years. She's been with Erko a couple months. I know. She nods. He's the one. If we can get beyond this beef thing. Kara, honey, I'm not sure how to break this to you. I pause.
What? What? Do you think I should dump him? I can't.
She wails. No, I think he's perfect for you. You should sign a contract with procreational options and move to Cuckoo and grow old together. I smile. Then what is it? My family has always had beef for Christmas dinner. Stunned silence blankets the room. Kara blinks. What? You heard me. Mother serves beef for Christmas. Actually, she serves real beef, but close enough. Standing rib roast, usually. Kara stares at me. Huh. I shrug. Of course, she usually serves turkey, too. Real turkey? Kara asks. I roll my eyes. What do you think? Right, of course the ice dame has real turkey. And beef. Wow. I had no idea. She wipes her face, smearing her makeup even more. So, go wash your face, and let's go find Erko. I reach down a hand and pull her up off the couch. She goes into the bathroom. Water splashes, and the toilet flushes. A few minutes later, she reemerges with her makeup perfect again. Kara has always been a pretty crier. No red nose, puffy eyes, or thick voice for her. Say, what did you get Erko for Christmas?
Oh, I got him the most amazing thing.
She gushes. Do you want to see it? I've already wrapped it, but I can show you a holo. She gestures to the corner of the room. A tiny Christmas tree sits on a table by the window. It's about 1/2 meter high and sparkles with red, green, and gold ornaments and lights. A small pile of wrapped gifts lay scattered below. When did you do that? I ask. She stares at me. The tree has been there for a week, but Erko and I decorated it a couple of days ago. Didn't you notice it before? I shrug. I haven't been here a lot, you know. I guess I kind of missed it. You really don't have to move out when he's here. She flicks her hollow ring and swipes through some screens. We don't mind if you stay. I grimace. That's okay. I've been busy, and I'd rather... I trail off. You two get kind of loud, and I don't need to hear all that, I say in a rush. Kara's eyes widen. Really? Even with the sound dampers on? You haven't been turning them on. But yeah, even after I turn them on, I can hear way more than I care to. It's not a big deal, though. There are plenty of places for me to stay. She bites her lip, but I smile and nod emphatically. If you're sure, she says. but you can come back anytime. And he won't be here long. He has to go back on duty before New Year's. Anyway, check this out. It's the perfect gift for Erko." The hollow rotates slowly in her palm. "What is that?" I ask. "A real earth leather weightlifting belt and matching gloves." She zooms in. "Look at the gold stitching. And there's Swift Shore latching technology in the buckle. It even monitors your sweat rate." "Wow, that's something." She sighs. "I know. He's going to love it." "Sark, that doesn't help me at all," I mutter as we leave the compartment. "What?" Kara squeaks. "Do you mean you haven't gotten a gift for Ty yet?" I hang my head. "No, I didn't even think about it until yesterday. I've never had a significant other at holiday time before." "Triana, that's so sad." Kara flings an arm around me as we walk up the radial. "Christmas gifts are one of the best things about dating. Well, that and sex, of course." She smiles smugly. I glare at her. "You know we aren't there." She just shakes her head. "What are you waiting for?" I'm saved from answering by our arrival in the concourse. The sound hits us like a wall as we step out of the radial. It looks like yesterday's party down on level 2 had babies and invited all their friends over, except these are adults, not children. Actually, very few people choose to raise their kids on the station. Most families move dirtside during the child-rearing years, but I digress. A sea of yelling, drinking, dancing, and singing bodies fills the space. Everyone who lives on this level must be out here. Bad Christmas music blares through the room. Jugs, cups, and bottles get passed hand to hand, even though it's not even lunchtime. Someone fires off a popper, and confetti flies through the air. I wince. My bots will be working overtime this week. We follow Kara's hollow ring to level 18. The atmosphere here is frantic, full of people rushing from shop to shop, dragging double handfuls of bags and boxes. We find Erko and Scott at a small coffee shop off C-Ring. Erko spots us from their small table next to the windows. His chair crashes over backward as he springs to his feet and races out the door. Kara throws herself at him, crying again. I skirt the happy couple and join Scott at the table. Can you believe them? They nearly broke up over chicken or beef.
Turkey or beef?
Scott raises his mug in salute.
Who would eat chicken for Christmas?
I snort. Yeah, I didn't dare tell her the Ice Dame also serves fish. Scott laughs.
Is that tonight's menu? My waistband already feels tighter.
Oh, tonight we'll have more options than you can imagine. She pulls out all the stops for the S-Corp holiday party.
I don't know.
Scott shakes his head.
I can imagine a lot. So, what are you going to get your boyfriend for Christmas?
What? I yelp. He rolls his eyes.
It was obvious last night you hadn't gotten him anything. I can help. It's my superpower.
Right, I say dryly. Your superpower is saving Christmas.
Of course.
He smiles. Seven. We've just reached the swanky shops on level 67 when my hollow ring buzzes. The upper levels are even more frantic than the lower ones, with long lines and rabid shoppers ripping items from each other's hands. The low-key jazz carols are nearly inaudible, drowned out by screeching and yelling. A layer of sweat and desperation mixes badly with the peppermint air freshener, leaving me a little queasy. I need to take this, I tell Scott, stepping into a quiet radial. Scott follows me down the hall to a bot duct, which I open, and we scoot inside.
This is much nicer than where we met,
Scott jokes.
Next time I get amnesia, I'm doing it up here.
I roll my eyes and accept the call. The hollow of a slender man with straight dark hair, almond-shaped eyes, and a hooked nose pops up in my palm. Good morning, Jaime. Is it? Jaime's usually serene face sports a sheen of sweat, and his eyes are bloodshot and wild.
Is it a good morning, Sarah? I wouldn't know. I haven't had a good night's sleep in weeks.
I glance at Scott, then look back at my palm. I've never heard Jaime sound so frantic. What's wrong?
That woman is going to drive me to drink, or out an airlock.
Jaime breathes heavily. Is Gloria messing with you too? I ask.
Gloria, the kitchen intern, she isn't helping. But I meant your mother.
He spits the words out like an unripe persimmon. What did she do? I've never seen you so ruffled.
She's never been so unreasonable, so capricious, so gauche.
His eyes flick off screen, then back. He leans in close.
This morning, she decided to change all the party favors. 200 of them. She does that all the time, although rarely so close to showtime. But today, she demanded.
He looks upward and drops his voice.
She demanded stockings.
Stockings?
Yes, red stockings with fuzzy white tops.
His lip curls as if he can smell Nikolai Bezos from across the level.
With stuffers inside. I don't even know what that means.
Scott steps forward.
I think that might be my fault. When we were talking about Christmas traditions this morning, I mentioned stockings. Usually they're hung by the chimney with care.
I stare at Scott. With care? He nods solemnly.
Yes, with care. But tiny ones would make fun party favors. Jaime, why don't you let me and Triana handle the stockings? I'm sure you have more pressing things to do.
Jaime draws himself up to his full height, which isn't impressive, and is truly adorable when viewed via a palm-sized hollow, and bows.
Thank you, Sir Calvin. This is most generous of you. I'm so sorry to have troubled you.
Scott waves a hand.
No problem at all. I'm a Christmas expert.
After Jaime signs off, I look at Scott. Stockings? Where are we going to get those? He smiles.
It's my superpower.
3 hours later, we're back up on 83 with more bags and packages than we can carry. Station retailers delivered them to Rafe's desk, but they can't come up to 83. Scott and I make 3 trips up the lift tube. We've laid everything out in Mother's yoga studio. A pile of small red stockings lays in one corner. Scott found them in the back of a tiny store I didn't even know existed down on level 13. They had exactly 200 of them. What kind of crazy luck is that? A zillion different piles of tiny treasures encircle us. All of them are wrapped in bright Christmas paper. I don't know how he convinced the vendors to wrap them, but they all happily complied. And none of them charged us for the extra work. Scott hands me a detailed schematic sketched out on a shopping bag.
If we stuff the stockings according to these plans, each one will contain a unique combination of gifts.
I shake my head. Christmas really is your superpower. Like all of Mother's parties, this one sparkles. Wealthy people in designer clothing, drinking exclusive cocktails, nibbling exotic foods. The silver and green theme of the living room extends through the formal parlor and the dining room. The holographic flames of long silver candles reflect off brilliant white china, silver, and crystal covering the tables. The red stockings in the center of each place setting provide a splash of contrasting color, and the effect is stunning.
Your stockings look fabulous, Sir Calvin.
Jaime straightens one. His formal tunic matches the dark green and silver of the room.
You are a miracle worker.
I laugh. You don't believe in miracles, Jaime. Jaime glares at me. Scott smiles and bows in reply. He looks fantastic in an old-fashioned black tuxedo with a red tie and vest. I'm wearing a close-fitting, full-length black gown with a moderate neckline and a slit up to my mid-thigh. I haven't worn anything so slinky in a long time. The guests circulate through the room, oohing and aahing about the tiny gifts spilling out of each stocking. Mother will live on this triumph for weeks. Bogey at 10 o'clock, I whisper to Jaime.
What's a bogey?
Scott asks.
And it's only 8.
It's an ancient Earth military thing. It means, look out, there's a bad guy. I'm not sure what time has to do with it. I jerk my chin at the front room. Nikolai Bezos has just entered. He's accompanied by one of the Zuckerberg twins. I'm not sure which one, since they're identical. I give Jaime a nod and steer Scott out of the dining room on an intercept course. Nick has a history of arriving completely blotto. He drinks so much, the buzzkill in the food can't come close to compensating. But today, Nick looks sober. His gait is steady, his eyes are clear, his smile is pleasant, and the Zuckerbergs are both serious, studious, non-partying girls. The fact that one of them came with Nick is unprecedented. Nick spots us and heads our direction.
"Sir Calvin," he says as they approach, "I'd like you to meet my companion, Zarina Zuckerberg."
He clears his throat.
"I owe you a sincere thank you. I don't know what you did, but—"
He breaks off.
"This sounds so stupid, but I think you fixed me. When we met in the lobby, I was trashed, and by the time you got me home, I'd decided to make a change. I haven't had a drink all day, which is a miracle for me."
Scott waves him off.
"I didn't do anything. It's all you, my friend. I hope you stay clean."
He claps Nick on the shoulder and smiles at his date as they move away to greet the Buffetts. Scott pulls my arm through his, steering me toward the kitchen. "There's that word again," I say. "Christmas miracles really are your business, apparently."
Scott snorts. "How would I make a guy sober up? It's all in his imagination."
"Why are we going to the kitchen?"
"I'm not sure."
Scott waves the door open and we step in.
"I just feel the need to be here."
The door opens onto a butler's pantry. We duck out of the way as men and women in formal attire stride in and out like clockwork. They pick up trays of food and drink as they depart, and deposit empties when they return. The full trays slide out of automated doors above the counter. The empties go into a bin that disappears through another hatch when full. We wait for a lull, then dart across the space and into the kitchen proper. The noise is deafening. Pans and utensils clatter, people yell, pots boil. A dozen white-coated chefs work at stations around the room, stirring and dishing. An amazing aroma wafts around us. A mix of roasting meats, fresh bread, spiced cakes, rich sauces, and, of course, chocolate. My stomach growls. Loudly. Scott answers, and he chuckles. Dav directs the controlled chaos, roaming the room, tasting, seasoning, rearranging. His usually clean white coat is smeared, and his hat sits precariously on his head. Someone drops something, and he whips around, assessing the damage. I take a deep lungful of the delicious air and smile at Scott. Looks pretty standard to me. I used to sneak down here during parties when I was young. Dav would always find a task for me and feed me dessert after the mad rush. This kitchen is one of my favorite places. We make ourselves as small as possible, standing against a wall near the door. Around the corner, a team arranges hors d'oeuvres on trays before they disappear through the delivery hatch. Gloria stands behind them, watching. One of the men demands over his shoulder, "I need another tray?" Gloria grits her teeth and hands him a tray. He hands it back. "That's not clean, get me another. And wash this one." Gloria's nostrils flare, but she bites back whatever was on the tip of her tongue and gets another tray. I can't believe the restraint she's showing. She must really hate being relegated to dishwashing. "Is that another of your Christmas miracles?" I ask Scott.
"How would I do that?"
He puts his index fingers to his temples.
"Mind control."
We watched an old vid while we stuffed stockings earlier. The story featured a villain who could control others telepathically and his eventual fitting demise. Not really Christmas fare, but it was good fun. "I hope not," I say. "That never works out." Scott steps forward, picking up a small jar on the counter.
"What's this?"
He looks around the room. No one pays any attention. A short man next to him pounds something in a huge pot. On the far side of the counter, 2 more white-clad men roll and fold some kind of pastry dough. A distracted woman carrying a huge gray tub of dirty dishes reaches out and takes the jar from Scott. "Demaya, what is that? Did you put something in the potatoes?" Dav's voice rings across the room. He's pointing at the woman. The mashing man turns to look, surprise on his face. The woman freezes.
I didn't touch the potatoes, chef, she says. I'm just collecting dirty dishes for the intern to wash.
Out of the corner of my eye, I see a small movement. I turn quickly, zeroing in on Gloria. But she continues to wash dishes, completely focused on her task. Which is totally suspicious. Gloria, hard at work. Besides, she loves conflict. She'd normally be all over DeMeyer. But I swear I saw just the tiniest smirk on her lips. What has she done? Dav grabs the jar and sniffs it. Then he looks into the pot on the counter. It's full of creamy white mashed potatoes. He smells the potatoes, and his eyes narrow. He straightens up and stares around the room, watching. After a moment, his eyes snag on mine. He gives some low instructions to the man with the masher. The man questions, then agrees. As Dav turns to us, the man behind him throws the masher into the pot and lugs it away. Dav stops next to me, turning to face the room. His eyes travel around it, watching, weighing. Without looking in my direction, he hands me the jar and mutters, "Do you still have that analyzer?" I wrinkle my nose. When I was a teen, I created an app that scanned food for foreign particles. It was only marginally successful at doing its job. The project was spectacularly successful at inducing food poisoning, however, as I attempted to test my creation on unwary guests. I have a better option. I pull up the surveillance cams and roll back in time. Sure enough, Gloria poured the contents of the jar into the potatoes. Make her eat some. Dav looks scandalized. Scott bursts out laughing. His deep chuckles draw attention from the entire staff. I catch Gloria's eyes and smile. Her eyes widen, then narrow. She whips back around to the dish sink. "Intern!" Dav roars. Gloria straightens slowly and turns. "Yes, chef?" A sweet smile is plastered on her face. With quick, graceful steps, she crosses the kitchen to us. "Test the potatoes," Dav barks. Color drains from her cheeks. I'm on a low-carb diet." Her eyes dart to the man approaching with the massive potato pot. "Even a tiny bite will throw me out of ketogenesis." "Ketosis," Dav says. "What?" Gloria asks. "What, chef?" Dav snaps. Gloria's voice wavers. "What, chef?" "The word you're looking for is ketosis, which you'd know if you needed to follow that diet. Taste the potatoes." His face is bland, but his voice is like iron. Gloria stares at Dav for a full 30 seconds. Then she whips off her hat and throws it to the ground. "I don't need this. I'm sick of your orders, you pathetic little man. You'll pay for treating me like this." She stomps on the hat. A gasp goes up around us. Gloria shoves past Dav and runs into a brick wall. Or rather, a wall of chefs. "No one talks to Chef Dav like that," DeMeyer says. The wall takes a step forward. "The help leaves through the back," the potato man says, pointing to the staff exit. "Dame Morgan insists." Gloria's eyes narrow down to mean little slits, but the white wall of chefs takes another step forward, blocking access to the dining room. "You'll be sorry. You'll all be sorry," Gloria hisses. She flings herself across the room, grabbing the handle of a large saucepan. Iron fingers close around her wrist. "I wouldn't do that," Scott says pleasantly. "Allow me to escort you out." He leans down and whispers something in her ear. Gloria looks up at Scott, and her eyes widen. She straightens her shoulders. "Thank you, but that's not necessary. I can find my way out." She pulls her arm from his grasp and stalks to the staff exit. As the door shuts behind her, a cheer goes up throughout the kitchen. Dav allows his staff to whoop for a few seconds, then claps his hands. "Back to work. We have a meal to prepare." He turns to me and Scott.
Thank you both.
Sarah Annabelle, would you check your cams to make sure she didn't taint anything else? I nod, and he rushes away shouting orders. Gloria is a one-trick pony. She only adulterated the potatoes. I scroll back carefully, but the chefs were canny enough to keep her away from the rest of the food. She must have messed with enough dishes over the last few weeks to make them all wary. Even the temporary staff seem to have her number. It's a wonder she managed to get to the potatoes. I'm going to take this jar down to medical and see if they can tell us what was in it. I tell Scott. Maybe I can take a scoop of the potatoes, too. We locate the little man emptying the big pot at the rear of the room. I scoop some into another jar and almost lick my finger, it smells so good. Scott lays a hand on my arm.
Bad idea. Let's go back to the party.
Dav zips over and takes the jars from me.
I'll put these in my office for later. Thanks for saving the party, Sarah.
He hands me a small plate with a couple confections on it. This man knows me well. I offer one of the candies to Scott and pop the other in my mouth. My eyes widen. You're a genius, I whisper through the sweet, creamy, intense flavor. I love you. Dav smiles and shoos us out of his kitchen. Now you know my kryptonite, I say to Scott.
I'm no supervillain. I use my powers only for good.
I look at him, considering. How did you know we needed to go into the kitchen at that exact moment? He shrugs.
I told you. I had a feeling. I've been worried about her since yesterday. Tonight would have made a perfect opportunity to sabotage so many things.
What did you say to her? It really seemed to scare her. I dodge a waiter with an empty tray and step back out into the dining room. Scott follows me, laughing.
I just told her bad girls and boys don't get any Christmas presents.
The rest of the party proceeds normally, which is to say, it's spectacular, like all Mother's events. The food is fantastic, and Dav even managed to replace the tainted potatoes. Tiny, crispy works of art, piped from potatoes and browned to perfection, grace each plate. The man is another miracle worker. A waiter offers dozens of desserts. Guests can choose as many as they wish. I order a tasting plate of everything. Gold-dusted chocolate cake, 5 flavors of pie, tiramisu, flan, custard cookies, chocolates, cheesecake. A huge tray covered in bite-sized plates arrives at my place, and I dig in. Scott moves a spoon toward a tiny pink mochi. I narrow my eyes at him. Don't even think about it, Christmas boy. You have your own. Scott gazes at me with those huge blue eyes, then looks down at his empty plate.
But it's all gone,
he whispers. I relent. But only half. I want to taste everything. After the mochi, Scott leans back in his chair while I finish off my desserts.
Where is everyone?
What do you mean? I lick chocolate mousse off a spoon and look around the table. This is everyone. Well, everyone except Gloria, and she couldn't come because she was working. I make air quotes with my free hand.
We stuffed 200 stockings. And yesterday Dav said he was making 200 figgy puddings, which I haven't seen yet, by the way.
He gestures to the table.
There are only 30 people here.
I snort and dig into an apple tart. These are the cream of S-Corp, the board of directors and their favored few. The other 170 employees of the station have their own parties. Mother made a brief appearance at each one earlier tonight, but she doesn't allow the rabble up here. I shrug. To be fair, there isn't room for everyone, and some of them are still on duty anyway. We can hit the ops party later if you want. It will be way more fun, but the food isn't as good. Scott waves a lazy hand.
I'll leave it up to you. You're the expert.
Eight. When dinner is finished, Don Gates decides to regale the group with his rendition of Christmas on Andromeda. He had a good voice when he was young, or so I'm told, but he's closing in on 85, and the Rejuve doesn't do as good a job on voices as it does on faces. Scanning the room for Scott, I slide toward the foyer. As I reach the threshold, I spot him, listening to Dame Zuckerberg. My shoulders slump. We'll never get out of here. That woman can talk.
Scott catches my eye and makes a shooing motion with his fingers.
When Dame Z glances away, he mouths, "Save yourself." Not wanting his self-sacrifice to be in vain, I slip out the door. The ops party takes place in the multi-grav gym down on level 6. I can feel the music vibrating the deck before I reach the door. When it whooshes open, I'm assaulted by pounding drums, wailing guitars, and a breathy voice singing about sexy Santa. I immediately visualize a pudgy man in red, fur-trimmed bikini briefs making pouty faces, and I burst into laughter. A few folks turn at the sound and wave, but return to their conversations. I say hello to some friends and grab a drink just to have something in my hand. My stomach is so full, I couldn't possibly put anything else into it. I circulate through the party, nodding and waving, but not stopping to talk to anyone. I stop in a corner near the door, leaning against the wall. I watch the dancers in their ugly Christmas shirts and the grungy-looking band wearing tinsel and bows over their torn jeans and ratty t-shirts. I'm just not feeling it tonight.
Setting the still full glass down on a side table,
I slide out the door again. Escaping 2 parties in one night is far from a record for me. Outside the gym, I consider my options. I can go back up to the penthouse and try to sneak into my room without getting busted. If I use a maintenance corridor, it should be doable, but the thought of being trapped in the Guilt Castle is not attractive. I can go back to my compartment, but a quick check of my illegal tracking app shows me Kara and Erko are already there. I could go to O'Neill's compartment, but I don't like being there when he's not around. It feels invasive and lonely. I wander through the mostly deserted radials and rings, feeling kind of sorry for myself. Having a boyfriend means I shouldn't be alone on Christmas, right? A tiny voice tells me it's not Christmas yet, and I could be enjoying one of the many parties. But I tell the tiny voice to shut up and let me mope. I find myself in one of my favorite spots on the station. A-Ring on level 20 is a farm space, full of green and growing fruits and vegetables. It's closed to the public, but as a maintenance tech, I can get in. I push through the foliage and make my way to the break room. This break room is a well-kept secret. I discovered it shortly after I arrived on station, when I realized my cleaning bots were avoiding it. In exchange for promising to keep their secret, the farm crew allow me to hang out here whenever I like. I push open the door and step into the hidden glen. They've transformed their break room into a magical clearing. Thick plants grow around the edges, hiding the walls. A tiny fountain provides the sound of running water. A small hill slopes down to the external windows, allowing you to lay on the grass and watch the sunrise. I glance at my station schedule. This side of the station is turned away from the sun, and we won't rotate around until early morning. But that's okay. Deep space fits my mood tonight. I lay back on the hill and gaze at the stars.
Excuse me?
A high voice breaks into my solitude. It's clear and beautiful, like a musical instrument, but not one I've ever heard before.
Can you help me?
I roll up on an elbow. Who are you? A small woman stands just inside the door. She's really tiny, maybe only a meter tall. Although I've seen little people on vids, I've never seen one in person. I think they've been genetically manipulated out of existence, at least in the higher tech areas of the galaxy. So much for diversity. Just edit it out. The woman steps forward.
I'm Mary.
She's dressed mostly in red, and tiny silver bells jingle on the hems of her skirt and blouse.
I'm looking for something we've lost.
Okay. Who are we, and what have you lost? And how did you end up in here? This section is restricted. Mary shrugs.
The door opened, and I came in. That sometimes happens, when it's the right place.
What? I narrow my eyes. Have you been drinking too much eggnog? She smiles, and a feeling of joy and contentment wafts over me.
There's no such thing as too much eggnog.
She giggles. I sit up. Sure. Who did you say you are?
I'm Mary. We're just visiting here, or we will be. But we've lost something, and you can help us find it.
One of us has clearly drunk too much eggnog no matter what you say. I rub my temples. What did you lose? Based on her clothing and stature, Mary is not local. She must be from one of the ships docked on level 40. I get to my feet. Why don't we see if we can get you back to your ship?
Thanks,
Mary says.
but I know where my ship is. I don't want to go there right now. I need to find what we lost.
I take a deep breath. If you would just tell me what you're looking for, I can help you find it. She looks me in the eyes, and that feeling of contentment settles over me again. Her golden brown eyes seem to expand and wrap around me. I could get completely lost in them. With a start, I find myself back on my butt, on the hill.
You'll help us when the time is right. See you soon.
She steps away into the thick brush. I start to tell her the door is behind the palm tree, but it seems like too much effort. She'll find it eventually. If she got in here, she knows how to get out. I lean back against the warm grass and gaze at the stars. A splash of water gets me right in the face. My eyes fly open, just in time to take a second assault. Forking sprinklers. Scrambling to my feet, I dodge the spray. Sunlight dances on the water, dazzling my eyes. It must be early morning. I duck between the ferns and look for the door. It's exactly where I remembered, behind the small palm. I wonder if the tiny woman is still back there, lost, and realize it had to have been a dream. Wiping water from my face, I make my way up to level 83. After a shower and fresh clothes, I find Scott eating waffles in the dining room. He's wearing another red sweater and faded jeans. His hair is still damp, and a fine blonde stubble fuzzes his cheek. You growing a beard? I ask. Scott smiles and raises a glass of orange juice to me, his mouth full. He chews, swallows, and takes a gulp of juice.
Busy day today.
He cuts another chunk of waffle with his fork. Really? Grabbing a plate, I cruise the buffet. As always, Dav has provided a huge selection of pastries and breakfast foods. It seems like a waste for only 2 or 3 people, but anything we don't eat goes to the company cafeteria on level 20. Sometimes I think the Ice Dame's leftovers feed half the station. I pile strawberries on my own waffle and spoon on a dollop of whipped cream. Did you remember who you are and why you're here? He waves that off as if it's not important.
It's Christmas Eve. We still have a present to buy.
He shoves a whole piece of bacon into his mouth.
And it's Sunday. We should start with church. Best way to start the week.
I look at him in surprise. Somehow I had mentally classified him as a spacer, someone who lives on a ship. Those guys are frequently religious, some of them even cult-like. But few ships have clergy or a regular worship schedule, so going to Sunday church or Saturday temple or Friday mosque is usually not on their radar. Okay, there are services at the sanctuary all morning. Take your pick. I pull a schedule from the OS and throw it up on the screen above the buffet. After the service, Scott links his arm through mine, and we wander out into the concourse.
You're still looking for something special for Ty, right?
Scott asks. I blink, surprised he remembered O'Neill's first name. Yeah, I say slowly, but I feel less frantic about it for some reason. Maybe some lingering effect of that weird dream last night. An echo of that feeling of safety and contentment washes over me again. We have to find your ship, too.
How do you know I have a ship?
He asks absently, gazing in a store window. You're obviously not from here, but you got here somehow. I haven't found any record of you on any of the shuttles up from Kaku. I tick the items off on my fingers as we walk. None of the cruise ships currently docked have flagged anyone missing. They keep pretty close count on anyone who comes on station. None of the recently departed ships have posted anyone missing either. You're listed in the OS as a VIP visitor, so you must have arrived on a private vessel from out system.
That is pretty compelling.
Scott leads the way down a radial.
What's down here?
We wander the inner rings of the mid-levels for a couple hours, but nothing screams O'Neill's name at me. At midday, we stop at the lunch alley on level 24. Tiny pushcarts line a section of B ring, offering exotic foods and beverages. We take our meal and head to the park on level 25. Gazing out at the stars, we eat in silence. Scott sits back with a sigh, wiping some sauce off his beard. I do a double take. You've the fastest growing beard I've ever seen. Did Kara talk you into some new growth accelerator? He rubs a hand over his centimeter-long facial hair, shaking his head.
That's crazy. It didn't grow this fast yesterday. One of life's unsolved mysteries. Tell me about Ty O'Neill.
What? Why?
You want to get him a gift.
Scott runs a hand through his platinum hair, pushing it off his face.
He's obviously important to you. Finding the perfect gift means understanding the relationship. So, tell me about him.
He works for board security.
I know where he works. Are you in love?
His blue eyes bore into mine. I gulp. He's not. We don't. Scott waves a hand.
Got it. Not ready for the L word. What do you two like to do together?
What do we like to do together? I'm not sure. We've been too busy saving the galaxy to do things we like. Watch vids, eat pizza, hack into computer systems and stop bad guys. You ask some hard questions.
Let's try this a different way.
He stands up and gestures for me to walk with him. We cross a miniature bridge over a tiny trickle of water.
Why him? Why do you want to get a gift for Ty O'Neill? Why not, say, Nick Bezos? Now that he's sober, he seems to be a good guy.
We walk in silence as I ponder that question. My first reaction is to say, because he's my boyfriend, sort of. But I think Scott is looking for something deeper than that. Why is Ty O'Neill my sort of boyfriend? We leave the park and walk inward, toward the concourse. He gets me, I finally say. He knows both sides of my identity, and he understands, now, why I left all that. I wave a hand at the ceiling, indicating the upper levels of the station. He knows I like ancient TV, and he doesn't make fun of it. He knows that I'm an introvert, and even though he isn't, he respects my need for solitude. He appreciates my tech skills and doesn't feel threatened when I'm smarter than him. He loves his family and knows I love mine, even when I don't like them very much. As we take the float tube up, I think about all that. It's all true. A warm feeling spreads through my stomach and chest. This is getting way too real. I am not ready for the L word, and I'm certainly not going to say it to Scott first. When we step out, I look at Scott. Plus, he's really hot. Scott laughs, and I'd swear his beard is even longer. His eyes twinkle. I look around. Why are we on 40? There are only duty-free shops here. Scott shakes his head.
This is where I need to be.
He strides away down Radial 4, slaloming around the occasional pedestrian. I run to catch up, almost barreling into a woman with a toddler. I dodge around her and grab Scott's arm. What do you mean? Is this like the kitchen? Are you going to perform another Christmas miracle? Scott doesn't answer. He pats my hand and walks to the end of the radial, stopping at a gate. Beyond the gate, the transit arms lead out to the passenger ship docks. People mill around, waiting for ships to arrive or depart. He looks at them, his eyes searching. Then he shrugs.
I guess we'll just wait.
Wait for what? I ask.
Her.
He nods. I turn and follow his gaze. He's looking through the gate at the people in the transit arm. Half a dozen people wander around, and I can't tell who he's talking about. Who? I ask. A feeling of peace comes over me. A high voice, soft and clear, cuts through the din
like a ringing bell.
Captain! Here you are!
I look down, knowing who I'll see. Mary, the tiny woman from my dream. You're real? I stutter. She smiles, and I feel such a rush of contentment that I don't care if she answers or not.
Thank you for finding Captain Calvin for us.
Scott stares at her, blinking, and recognition flashes across his face. You're welcome. Who are you? She smiles again.
Stop that, I say. Tell me what's going on.
Scott and Mary exchange a look.
She's pretty strong-willed,
Mary says.
I know.
Scott nods, then turns to me.
Look, I can't tell you things you already know. So just accept what you suspect is true, and you'll be right.
I level a look at him. Really? You're going all woo-woo on me? He looks at Mary again. She shrugs. He turns back to me.
My name really is Scott Calvin. And yes, before you ask, I really did have amnesia. I'm still not sure how I ended up on SK2, but you found me, and took care of me, and helped me share Christmas joy. And you helped me find Mary, and my ship.
I didn't help you. You found Mary all by yourself. I followed you here, remember?
I fling a hand back the way we came.
But I wouldn't have gotten here without you. Or at least, I would have been a lot lonelier while I was searching.
He reaches over the gate, and Mary hands him a small package.
But you helped us.
I protest. You helped Mother with her party favors and her gift for Roger, and saved Dav from the horrible Gloria, and helped me bring Kara and Erko back together, and you bought me lunch. I feel pressure in my eyes, and I blink madly. Scott smiles and presses the package into my hands.
We spread lots of Christmas spirit together. That's always a good thing. But now Mary and I have to get back to the ship and the crew. We have a lot of deliveries to make. Merry Christmas, Triana.
He leans in, smelling like gingerbread and cocoa, and kisses me on the cheek. And then he's gone. I blink. He and Mary are gone, just poof, as if they never existed. I look down at the package in my hand. It's plain brown paper, with words scrawled on it in black ink. Open now. Don't wait for Christmas. I race back down to level 6 and burst into our compartment. Setting the package carefully on a counter, I dash to my specially wired console and log into the OS. What's going on? Kara looks up from her magazine. Sitting next to her on the couch, Erko ignores me, focused on some sports event on his holo. I pull up the list of ships docked at SK2. There are slips for 8 ships on Arm 4. 6 are listed as currently empty. A cruise ship is pulling away. They undocked an hour ago, long before Scott and Mary disappeared. The last slip holds a small, independent transport that docked last night. They're getting ready to depart. Got you, I mutter, worming into the port data. Got who? Kara gets up and stands beside me, looking at the screen. Scott. I stab at the icon. He's leaving with a tiny woman on this ship. You know you sound crazy, right? She puts a hand on my arm. It's right outside! I race to the wall of windows on the far side of the room. I put my hands and nose against the plexiglass and look up. More than 30 levels above us, the transit arm sticks out into space. Beyond the slender arm, the massive cruiser crawls away from the station. On this side, seeming to hang from the arm by an access tube, a shiny red ship glitters in the sun that's just appearing around the edge of the station. It's a sleek little ship with 8 engines and rows of bright white lights. As we watch, the ship detaches from the access tube. It drops toward us, gracefully cutting through space. Ops is going to go supernova, Kara says as the ship swoops toward the station. Why aren't the proximity alarms going? I wonder, staring at the ship. As it approaches, the sunlight glints off the gold trim on the hull, picking out the name. Reindeer. It swings by like a fighter plane buzzing the tower in one of those ancient TV vids. And although there's no way I can possibly see that far, I'd swear I see Scott and Mary waving at me through the window. It swoops away. I drop into the armchair. Erko looks up.
Hey, Tree, what's up?
I am not going to tell Erko what just happened.
We just saw Santa,
Kara cries, flinging herself down next to Erko. He stares at her. You saw Santa?
You did too. Scott Calvin, he's Santa, and he gave Triana a present.
What are you talking about? He turns to me. What is she talking about? I explain about the reindeer, the tiny woman named Mary, and Scott's magically growing beard. Kara bounces up and down on the couch.
Really? An elf. I thought he was Santa even before I heard about the elf.
I look at her. You did? Why? You've heard the song Sexy Santa, right? It describes Scott perfectly. And when I saw his beard this morning, I interrupt her. When did you see him this morning? He posted a selfie on the station net. She flicks her hollow ring and brings up InstaShare. There's a picture of me and Scott sitting in the park on level 25. When did he take that? How did he take that? He doesn't have a hollow ring. He looks just like the song says. Bright blue twinkling eyes, white hair, tight abs. She smiles. That is not how I picture Santa, Erko says. But I'm a hetero dude, so. Open your present, Triana. Kara leaps up and grabs the package, shoving it at me. I pull the old-fashioned twine, and the brown paper falls away. Inside are two smaller packages. One is wrapped in red and gold striped paper and tied with a narrow gold string. The other has shiny blue wrapping with stars scattered over it in a wide silver ribbon. The blue one has a small silver card that says Triana. I open the card. My dear Triana, thank you for taking me in and making me part of your family. You truly live the spirit of Christmas. Please accept this small token from me and the crew. And I've included something special you can give to Ty. Trust me, he'll love it. SC. SC. I run a finger over the initials. Scott Calvin.
Santa Claus! Kara cries. Open the gift! Open the gift!
You'll just have to wait until Ty gets here. I hold it out of reach. As if in response to my statement, the doorbell rings. I jump up and wave the door open. And there he is. Like magic. Hey, I say. Hey, yourself? He slides an arm around me and gives me a kiss that curls my toes. Someone pulls my arm. I open my eyes. Kara drags me away from the door.
Open the gifts! Open the gifts!
Calm down, Kara. Erko laughs. He pushes her down on the couch and goes to the kitchen corner. You two want some mulled wine? With our drinks in hand, we settle down into the chairs. I throw a fireplace vid up on the big screen. Kara hands me the red and gold package and explains to Ty about Scott, the red spaceship, the tiny woman. This guy's buying gifts for my girl, Ty asks. Should I be worried?
Aren't you listening? Kara cries. He's Santa.
It's for you. I hand the package to Ty. Really? You didn't have to get me a gift. He turns the small package around in his hands, looking at the beautiful wrapping. I didn't. Scott did. Oh, just open it already. He snaps the gold string and unwraps the box. He looks inside and glances up at me, puzzled. I raise my eyebrows. He shrugs. Reaching inside, he pulls out a small glass sphere. It sits comfortably in the palm of his hand. He holds it up to the light. I'm not sure what this is. It's a vid globe. I reach forward to take it from him. I've never seen one outside a museum or, well, a vid. I hand it back to him. How does it work? Kara leans over the back of Ty's chair. This says they haven't been made in over 100 years. I scroll through a wiki page on my hollow ring. Squeeze it gently to activate it. A cone of light pops up from the sphere in Ty's hand. It glows blue, then brightens to white. A still picture of me appears in the cone. Then it swirls and transforms into a picture of me and Ty. We watch, mesmerized, as a parade of pictures and short vids from my personal files appear in succession. How did Scott get them onto that sphere? Maybe he really is magic.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Ty sets it carefully on the table and pulls me into his arms for a tender kiss. Open the other one, Kara cries, bringing us back to reality. I laugh and take the blue box from her. I pull off the ribbon and carefully unwrap the box. Normally, I'd just rip the paper off, but this wrapping is exquisite. Setting it aside, I open the box. Inside is a crystal bowl with a lid. I pull it out and start laughing. It's chocolate, and not just any chocolate. These are Dav's chocolates. How did Scott get them? And when did he write that note? Mary brought this package to him at the gate. Christmas magic, Kara breathes. I offer the candy to the others. There are 8 beautiful chocolates, and we each take one. Setting the bowl down on the table, I notice something else inside the box. I pull out a small card and burst out laughing again. What? Kara asks. I hold it up. It's a delivery invoice for a VacuBot 5001 with tinsel busting technology. Santa really knows the way to a space janitor's heart. This has been The Trouble with Tinsel, a space janitor Christmas novella by Julia Huney. Narrated by Rachel Music. Copyright 2018 by Julia Huney.